Hello, hello, podcast listeners. This is Angelo, and this is Season 10, Episode 11 of the Otafest podcast. With me today is the wonderful Diofest.
Wow, I haven't been here in a while. Hello, everybody.
I feel like it's been a season and a half since we've had you on.
I'm kind of like the podcast cryptid, where I just appear out of the woodwork like a termite every couple of seasons.
Absolutely, but we love you for it.
Yay!
It adds flavor.
We love
it adds
bugs.
Texture.
Bugs is friends.
Bugs is food.
Bugs is good. Bugs is nice, crunchy, good. We love bug.
I don't know why Bugs is food is a League meme. I don't understand it. All I remember is that at League Worlds, all of you guys were saying Bugs is food, and I'm just sitting here eating whatever snacks we had, and I'm like, this isn't Bugs. This is charcuterie board.
It's because there's bugs in the lane. You got to eat them. They're feeding. The Bugs is feeding. Bugs is food.
Bugs is food.
Bugs
is
food. But
before we get a little too far ahead, we've got a couple news and announcements. Volunteer applications open on November 22nd. Check out otafest.com/volunteer for details. Please note you must be 13 years old by May 16th, 2025 to volunteer for Otafest 2025. As well, you can now find Otafest on Blue Sky as at otafest.com.
Woohoo, Blue Sky!
The more social media. It's crazy. It's crazy how eons ago, Jack Dorsey made Twitter, and then it got bad. And now Jack Dorsey made Blue Sky, and everybody is switching to it.
And everybody cheered. Jack Dorsey is just very good at birthing social media platforms.
The least bad tech bro.
True.
The least bad. Very, very specific technicality.
Indeed, it is an important technicality. But so far, so good. I mean, the app works. It's starting to hit that critical mass where there are people on the website and people are motivated to use the website. So it's like actually a fun website to use. It's pretty good.
There's good content on it now.
It is.
I am finding myself being 50-50 swapping between Twitter and Blue Sky right now.
Yeah. All I need from Blue Sky to 100% make the switch and cut X out of my life, I need private accounts or the ability to make a private account. I need that. And I need video embeds.
That's video embeds are there.
No, not video not video embeds, video posting.
Yeah, video posting is there.
It doesn't work for me.
Just upload an MP4, forehead.
Oh, is it a specific file type? Maybe.
Yes, only MP4s work right now for video posting. The other thing is for GIFs, if you upload a GIF, it will not auto-convert like it does on Twitter. Yeah. So you have to use like FFmpeg or something like that to convert it first.
That's what I mean. I need that. I just need the video features in the website.
I'll just give you my script.
I don't want... No. Listen, I need the video features and
they're already there.
I need private... No, I need them built into the website and I need private accounts. And then I can delete Twitter from my X, whatever, from my life forever. Then I will be free.
Just simply use the software tools that are available.
No, I want Jack Dorsey to put it in the website for me, specifically.
We're waiting on Jack Dorsey. At least Dio is waiting on Jack Dorsey. The rest of us have made the switch, and it is nice and blue.
It is very nice. It is very nice inside. I like it.
And other things that are good. Oh my god. The second season of Arcane is airing.
Yeah, it's out. Acts 1 and 2 have already aired. This weekend will be the final act, Act 3, and the end of the season, and the end of the series.
It's kind of crazy. The level of detail that's been going into Arcane, a lot of Hollywood types have been criticizing Riot, being like, why would you pay $250 million for this?
Because it's good.
Because it is legitimately fantastic. It is pushing League of Legends so hard. It is roping in casuals. It is roping in people who never would have touched LoL with like a 10-foot pole.
Yep, it's that, and that's the thing. That was the goal. The goal is that it's a giant League advertisement it is a love letter to League fans and League of Legends players who, you know, have been dedicated to the series since 2009, and that's who it's for. And even better that now it's enticing people who didn't know anything about League of Legends and now are like, you know, what's going on? Like you're invested in the story, and meanwhile the rest of us are sitting on the couch like LeBlanc. and you're like, who is that? Like, I don't know what that is.
There is nothing in the world that will get me to play a MOBA. I don't find that type of gameplay enticing.
Very fair.
But Rito has that good old double KO, double knockout game coming in the wings, the 2x KO.
Yep.
Their fighting game.
There's a whole bunch of other really good side games too. Like they had The Ruined King, which is an turn-based RPG that is actually a really, really good game. They have I can't remember what it was called, but they have a rhythm game. Like Riot just like
has a rhythm game?
Yeah, there's a rhythm game. It stars Ziggs, and it uses all of the original League of Legends music.
I had no idea. I legitimately did not know that was a thing. Like, I know Vanguard is... Not Vanguard, fucking... Valorant is tangentially related somehow. I don't think it's exactly tied in with the League lore.
It's not related to the League. It's its own separate thing.
Okay. Now.
It's not related at all.
I don't know. There's some dimensional heckery-weckery going on in Valorant. They might always tie it back to Runeterra somehow.
True, they might. You never know. I mean, maybe the reveal is going to be that that
it was Hextech all along.
Exactly, the pre-Rune Wars Runeterra was actually just our world. Because the League is so funny because the lore is so deep and so rich, and so it works really well as a Netflix show. But it's really funny, the lore that League of Legends and like Arcane is based on is actually the second iteration of League of Legends lore. Like they had a universe reset. This is the new lore, and then there's the old lore.
That's not that big of an issue though. That's fine if you ask me.
It's pretty fun. It means that like you can enjoy like the new stories that they're crafting and how they're building the world of Runeterra, and they've even said that they want to do more visual media works like Arcane, but the Piltover and Zaun storyline is what's going to be ending in Arcane. But they might do more in the future with another region of Runeterra.
Well, like you have speculated endlessly how you expect some conflict between Noxus and Ionia, I think you said it was called.
That's right. So there's a
how
there's
you would
a lot
love to see a series based on that, and I have seen
want it so
multiple
bad.
Reddit posts and comments and things about that exactly.
Well, it's a
People
really big,
want it.
People want it, and like the Piltover and Zaun conflict is a really good setup. A big like pivotal sort of part of League's current lore is how all of the different like countries, the major countries and regions in Runeterra, so League of Legends' world, like the physical continent, is how they interact with magic. And the whole point of like the Piltover and Zaun conflict is like people in Zaun are trying to figure out how to use magic just to survive because they're poor and life is hard. People in Piltover are trying to figure out, you know, how to mechanize it and commercialize it because, you know, it's a commercial city. It's all about, you know, making money. We've seen in Arcane a lot of Noxian influence, and Noxus's whole bit with magic in the League storyline is basically warmongering and imperialism. They're trying to figure out how can we use magic for war, and they have a big conflict with another region in Runeterra that is very much Ionia lives in harmony with magic, and it's a very big spiritual piece of Ionian culture. So it's like you have an imperialist country that's gonna go and invade a country that lives in peace, and they're diametrically opposed. It makes great narrative. It just
does sound really compelling,
right?
That really, really does sound compelling.
It's a very compelling potential storyline, and it fits following, like, we're going to get the conclusion of Piltover and Zaun. We've already been introduced to some of the core sort of central characters and what's going on with Noxus in the form of, Ambessa, and we see that she's really just, she's a warmonger. She wants to start a fight. And that's what Noxians do. They want to start fights.
Your girl Ambessa is just like, my goal is to get more power. How can I use violence to achieve this?
Literally. And that's Noxus 101. Is their goal is we're going to take over the whole world. That's what's best for the world. Is if the whole world is part of the Noxian Empire, it will be a good world. How are we going to achieve this? Violence and war. The strong shall rule, and the weak shall be cold.
Yes.
And it's a compelling narrative. So I'm excited and also sad for the end of Arcane, but I'm excited as well for the potential possibilities of, because Arcane has had so much critical success, it paves the way to explore other regions and stories within the League of Legends lore, which I think taking the MOBA out of League of Legends, there is some really good narrative content in Riot's world.
Oh, yeah. One thing that I'm a little bit worried about with Arcane specifically, it feels like they're afraid to kill off certain characters. Because they kind of need them alive for League of Legends to make sense. Or at the very least, it feels like that's what they think.
I think so. I think you're right about that.
An ongoing theme throughout Arcane, it kind of feels like a Greek tragedy, where nobody is allowed to really be happy for too long.
Yeah.
Even if good things happen, bad things are going to wipe out those good things.
Yeah.
So I'm worried that either the ending is just going to be really sad, or it's going to just be a non-ending. I don't know what kind of ending we're going to get. I'm
personally predicting that we're going to end up with the sort of non-ending kind of route, because at the very least in original League, like in the original League lore, and Arcane is, welcome and allowed to kind of do its own thing and diverge a little bit. It's its own piece of media. It's allowed to wrap up the character stories and character arcs if it wants. But because they're kind of trying to work within the framework of the existing League lore, those stories are intentionally kind of open-ended and left to, like, the player to decide what's going on and what happens next. And it's also open for Riot so that they can continuously add to the story with events and skin lines and all kinds of stuff. What's really interesting is this is one of the things to me that I think is kind of a drawback of the new League lore, because the old League lore was closed. Which I think is probably why they had to get rid of it. But the old League lore was very much the League of Legends functioned like Fate Stay Night, in that when you play on Summoner's Rift, you are summoning legends from Runeterra's history with their closed stories of what happened to them in their lifetimes.
You actually just put it into terms that I actually understand.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody listening to this understands that through the lens of Fate Grand Order or Fate Stay Night, but
but that's what it is, right? It's like you summon a servant and you can learn that servant's backstory, and then there's stuff that happens in the Holy Grail War that is, unique to that servant, and then that servant returns to the Throne of Heroes. And that's how the old League lore worked. When you played Jinx, you got to learn Jinx's backstory and how she became, a legend in Runeterra. And then, stuff that happens on the Rift really happens, and then she goes back to the Hall of Legends,
Okay.
So that was the old lore. And so as a result, the stories could be closed, because it was like, well, it doesn't matter that they're dead. You can just summon them. Literally, that's why it's called Summoner's Rift, was because you were summoning the champion to play as.
Okay.
Much like a master in the Fate series summons a servant. that is not really a thing in the new League of Legends lore, which means that I think the writers are kind of pigeonholed a bit, where they want to finish the stories and wrap up the narrative, or have some sort of narrative to wrap up, but they can't close the story so much that, the character is forever stunted.
I see what you mean. Are you worried? Are you worried that the Arcane writers are going to try to pigeonhole every single character or legend into the same time frame? Like, are you worried that they're going to create a Runeterra where everybody exists at the same time? Or do you think they're going to let different stories take place in different centuries even?
So in the current League lore, I think they're already pigeonholed by that. Pretty much all champions exist at the same time. Like, none of them, in the in-game lore at least, none of them have died. So they can all interact with each other on the Rift because they're all alive at the same time.
Oh, so that part is kind of different from, like, the Holy Grail War, Throne of Heroes sort of system.
Yeah, like in the new lore. In the old lore, it wasn't that way. In the old lore, it was like they were from different timelines in like Runeterra's history. But in the current lore, basically everything that's happening is happening to all 150 something champions.
Damn.
Either directly or indirectly. I think it was 2 years ago, was the Ruination event, which was a big story event where basically like this new character, his name is Viego, and he's the ruined king of legend. And his ruination, which is basically like, imagine a big like fog that, possesses people, spreads out across all of Runeterra. And so half the cast is possessed and half the cast is fighting possession. And so it's happening to everybody.
All right. I am learning actually so much about League lore now.
Yeah.
I did not realize.
So I don't know. So where we are in like Arcane is like well before when this happens. This is like well before this. So like Arcane is kind of pigeonholed in that if it doesn't do its own thing, which it still might, and I hope it does, but I don't know if it's going to, and that's what scares me. If it does its own thing, then, we can have an interesting wrap-up ending where we can still be surprised at, seeing where different characters' stories and such end, and how they're finalized. But if they don't do their own thing, we might end up kind of pigeonholed where it's like, well, all of the playable champs are going to survive, and they all have an end game, like we know what they're supposed to be or how they're supposed to get there. So I don't know. I'm scared. I know we're barreling towards the end, and I'm just worried to see how open-ended it's going to end up being.
I kind of want solid closure.
Me too.
I feel like all of Arcane so far, the first season and everything from the second season so far, the story writing has been so good, has been so solid, has been so compelling that I want yes, this is how it ends. That's the story. I don't want and our battle continues sort of ending.
Exactly. Our battle continues on the Rift. Like, yeah, no, I really hope we get a nice wrap-up ending. I fear that we won't. I'll be okay with it, but I feel like it's going to be very tough. It's a very tough landing to stick. So we'll see if it sticks.
Our expectations are just very, very high.
Because
our
expectations are very, very high. Because it's a good show.
Yeah. Now, having that said, our expectations have been a little high now, at least for a year, at least since October of last year.
Yeah.
When we traveled to the Far East. Since
Japan.
We went to Japan, we went to the Weeaboo Holy Land, and we ate some of the best food known to man.
Yeah, we ate like kings. It was real good.
From my perspective, for me at least, I don't know when the next time I'll be able to go back to Japan is, but I feel like we've been making an effort to import Japan back to our own kitchen.
Yeah, we really have been because, we really enjoyed the food while we were eating. It was so delicious. And like it was also like very nutritious even while we were eating out and like in eating somewhat indulgently. Like there was just a lot of really balanced, good quality meals. So it's been nice to be able to replicate some of them at home.
Having that said, we are not replicating. We are not replicating the nutritious stuff. We are replicating the delicious stuff.
Yeah, the
I
decadent
know that
stuff.
I've spoken more than a few times about okonomiyaki on the podcast, and quite frankly, you have enjoyed it just as much as I have.
I love okonomiyaki.
But one side effect of okonomiyaki, because one ingredient that you need is called tenkatsu, and that is fried tempura bits.
Yep.
So to get fried tempura bits, we needed to go buy tempura batter that we can just mix up and make tempura bits out of.
Yep.
So we're sitting here with this giant bag of tempura batter, and I'm thinking,
Why don't we
how
just make
hard
some
can it be
tempura?
to just make tempura vegetables?
Mm-hmm.
And so the other week we were making some tempura broccoli. We had some tempura enoki mushrooms. And good Lord, even though I was just kind of ad hoc doing it in the kitchen, that was some of the best tempura I ever had.
It was so yummy. I think because it was fresh,
yummy.
right?
It was crispy. It was fresh. It was hot.
It was so good.
The one thing that I need to figure out is the nice dipping sauce that they give you at restaurants. From what I can tell, it's a mixture of dashi, mirin, and soy sauce. But when I tried to make it, the ratios were off. Even though I followed a recipe online, the ratios were off, so it didn't taste right.
Yeah.
But tempura is one of the things that we thought was absolutely fantastic, absolutely great. It was a little bit time consuming. It was a little bit time consuming.
It was, but it was so delicious.
I don't think it's going to fit into the irregular rotation of meals, kind of like okonomiyaki has found itself in.
But it's a good treat every now and then.
It is a good treat. Another thing, though, that's not too hard. Last week, we were out of bread for lunch meats. We were out of bread for lunch meats. And so I was in the shower, and I was just sitting there, washing my face, washing my armpits, and I was just thinking, if we don't have bread, I know we've got some tuna. We've got some tuna in the pantry. Mm-hmm. I bet I could do onigiri.
Yeah, and I was like, I want onigiri. I like onigiri a lot.
So I get out of the shower. I head right into the kitchen. I put on a pot of rice. Dio wakes up and is like, "What? It's 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I was like, why are you
cooking
making rice? Like, what's happening here? Hold on."
And I'm just like, no time to talk. Onigiri time.
And I was like, ooh, I like onigiri. This sounds like a good time.
Both of us were worried that there might not be enough time for you to
Indeed,
to actually
I
get
had to
some
go
before you
before
had
going
to
to
go
work.
But the online recipes were super simple. They were super straightforward. It was just make fresh rice. There's nothing special about the rice. Make sure they're a little bit salted so that there's like a bit of flavor there.
Yes, it's not bland.
Put your filling in the rice. Pat it together. Slap on some nori. If you want to dress it up with some furikake on the outside, have fun with that.
Yeah.
But then just ball rice around filling and you're done.
And we're good to go. Now, I will say we use my favorite filling type, which is tuna. I love tuna.
Yeah.
Tuna's cheap and it's delicious. However, and this is my one, it's not really a complaint, but it's a critique. I don't know. We had leftover Chipotle mayo in the fridge, and so we used that. It was fine, but I really think Chipotle mayo lacks the tang of like Kewpie mayo or like even Miracle Whip. So I was like, the Chipotle mayo wasn't doing it for me, but it was still really good.
You're allowed to be wrong.
Chipotle mayo just tastes like nothing. It just tastes like a whisper of smoke. Which is fine in
actually
some
disagree.
foods. It's fine in some foods.
So the reason we were using Chipotle mayo
Was we had leftovers.
like Dio was saying, we had some left over. So it made sense to use that before anything else. And quite frankly, I would argue that the tuna salad itself, using the Chipotle mayo, was incredibly flavorful.
No.
The Chipotle flavors were coming out very strong in that.
It just tastes like smoke.
And I was living for it. But to your comment, once we put that tuna mayo filling in the onigiri, something about it being surrounded by the rice really mellowed out that Chipotle flavor.
Yeah, it disappears.
So when I was actually eating the rice balls, the Chipotle was just gone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Now, what I'm wondering, what I'm curious about, would using Kewpie mayo for that, because the major difference between regular mayo and Kewpie mayo to me is how eggy the mayo tastes.
Yeah, it's eggy and tart. Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're tart.
It's not super tart. It's not like Miracle Whip tang, but it's like, it's very eggy and sweet.
Eventually, once we run out of the Chipotle mayo, I will give that a try.
Bro, I'll drink
I will
the
give that a
Chipotle
try.
mayo to make sure it disappears, because I want Japanese tuna salad needs to be with Kewpie mayo. It's just not right. It's really funny because I don't like complaining about food because I don't really like cooking. And so if I don't like cooking, I shouldn't get to, have my cake and eat it too.
You will eat what I cook for you.
Exactly. I'm very lucky to be spoiled to have someone who enjoys cooking and is good at cooking and is willing to cook for me. So I don't get, the fourth thing of, and now I get to complain and bitch about food. But at the same time, I am secretly a picky eater, and I'm never opposed to a tasty food experiment, especially because a lot of the food experiments that Angelo gets up to are really do turn out really tasty. They end up being super good, and I discover something that I didn't know I was gonna like. But some food experiments, I'm like, can I just have the normal food first as like a boilerplate, so I know what the normal thing tastes like before we do the experiment, so I have a control to compare against.
That's fair. Kind of like that time we were making bao buns, but the first time we made it, we were using pizza yeast. So it was a little bit tougher and doughier than when we used quick rise yeast.
And I was like, maybe it's just not good. Maybe we just can't make them the same at home. And then once we had, the proper yeast, it was delicious. It was perfect.
No, even that first time it was damn good.
Yeah, I mean, it was good, but it was even better with the proper yeast.
It was better with the proper yeast. I will concede that.
It was much
but
better
it was
with the
still
proper
damn
yeast.
good, even with the pizza yeast.
I don't know if I would say it was damn good. It was good. It was very doughy. It was very chewy. It had that pizza crust chew, which is good in pizza. I don't think it's good for buns. That's
fair. But that leads us up to our final Japanese, and I would say probably Japanese inspired, but our last Japanese cooking experiment. And that was a take on a classic gyudon. So, we love enoki mushrooms in this house. Enoki mushrooms are one of our favorite types of fungi in this house.
And that's a big deal because I mentioned I'm a picky eater. A lot of my pickiness has to do with textures. And so mushrooms are really hard for me because I like the flavor of mushrooms, but a lot of fungi, the texture is abominable, but not enoki. Enoki mushrooms, excellent taste, excellent texture.
Whereas if I were to describe it, your standard like cremini mushroom, your little button cap mushrooms, they have something of a spongy texture to them.
Yeah, they're nasty. They taste like foam.
That's just the fact. Like, it's depending on how you cook them, they will have a very spongy, foamy texture, and I understand why people wouldn't like that.
Yep.
And enoki mushrooms, part of me wants to say stringy, but that's the wrong word.
They're like...
But the individual stems have a chew to them.
Yeah, they're like reedy.
Yeah.
They're like reeds where they have like a little bit of crunch, but not like a crunch. Like just
it's
a little
satisfying.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
good.
Yeah,
And
I
so
love them.
there's this thing that we've seen multiple times. We've had it at, say, Fusion, for example, where they'll wrap the enoki mushrooms in some thinly sliced beef, and that's delicious. We've seen some videos online where people effectively make a gyudon, like a beef bowl, using beef wrapped enoki mushrooms.
Yep.
So we gave that a try. And good lord,
Oh my god, it was perfect.
I think this might be one of my
My
favorite,
favorite. Agree.
Japanese dishes that we've tried so far. And I
Literally so good and so easy. Like the only
That's the thing.
hard part, and it's really not that hard, is actually wrapping the meat around the enoki. And I think that was only hard because we bought pre-cut frozen thinly sliced beef. If we had bought pre-cut thinly sliced beef that I think wasn't frozen, it would have been super easy.
maybe
Like brainless.
the only hard part, like Dio was saying, was wrapping the enoki. Had we not done that, had it just been maybe gyudon with enoki in there, it would have come together in, I think, 15 minutes and been a fantastic meal.
Absolutely.
But I do think there's something fun about having your little bundles of enoki wrapped in beef. I think that's the proper way to do it.
It makes a good visual.
But
And
one
you
thing,
eat with your eyes too.
it's funny that you say that, because my only criticism about these sort of dishes, like your gyudon, your oyakudon,
True. Once they're
things of
cooked,
that
they don't
nature,
look so pretty.
they
look a little
I want to
throw-uppy.
be charitable,
They look
but
a
you're
little
right. They look
throw-uppy.
like vomit.
They look a little throw-uppy.
Especially when you bring the egg, the
cooked
egg
egg
into
is
it.
really what does it.
It
The
looks
cooked
like
egg,
foamy and like grayish almost. Like
It
it
looks
keeps
weird.
a little bit of that yellow, but when it's in the broth and cooked in the sauce and everything,
It just becomes gray glorb.
but
It
you
becomes gray
can't
meat.
let your eyes deceive you.
If you put it in your mouth,
It's
it tastes
so
so
delicious.
Good. It's so delicious. And here's how you fix it. You fix it with the garnish.
Yeah.
You put the green onions and you put the sesame seeds, and it distracts you from the color of the meat.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody knows, like, when you are plating up any food, doesn't matter what it is, literally any food, you put a little bit of sliced green onion on top, and
It
it
fixes everything.
turns it from, like, boring to amazing. Gyudon or enoki rolls, perfect. Put on that green shit, you're done. You got some pasta rolling, some red pasta, white pasta, doesn't matter. Get some green onion slices on top. That shit will bang. You got some garlic bread? Put some green onion on that garlic bread, and it kicks it up at another level. Oh my god, oh my god. You make yourself a drink, you go to the bar, you make yourself a Caesar, put some green onion on that Caesar.
Blech. I mean, it's gonna look beautiful, but taste-wise,
It's going to look better than it would otherwise.
yeah.
If you have yourself a nice birthday cake, maybe with a picture of your dog on it,
No.
and maybe skewered
No.
with a bunch of pictures of questionably sexy characters,
No.
throw some green onion on that cake.
No. Don't
Hear
put green
me
onion
out.
on your birthday cake. Absolutely not. Don't
Throw
do
some
that.
green. What's the worst that could happen?
Your cake tastes like onion. I feel like birthday cake and onion is not. I mean, you could put on potato chips and see if the market demands it, but I think they don't. I think they don't want that. I'm gonna be for real. I don't think anybody wants birthday cake and onion. I think that sounds very vile.
Fair. No, here's what you do instead. Right? So instead of the cake center, what you do is get some bread. You get some bread, and then you lay down a layer of meats, and then a layer of thinly sliced tomatoes, and then a layer of
meat
lettuce, and then
cake.
another layer of bread, and then
sandwich.
another layer of sandwich, and then another layer of bread. Instead of icing, you put mayo
Cheese?
and cheese.
Yeah, you're describing a sandwich, brother.
Yep,
Very proud
but
of
you
you.
make it look like a cake,
I mean, true. You can.
and
yes,
then you put green onion on top.
Yes, you can do that. I would eat that. I'm into it.
I would eat that.
I'm into it. I'm into it. That sounds like a fun time.
A cold cut cake.
Cold cut cake.
Cold
Yeah,
cut cake.
There we go. That's the name. Cold cut cake.
Ah.
We'll eat that. That sounds delicious. But yeah, we've done a lot of good Japanese home kitchen, and it's great because we live now pretty close to a like Japanese / Korean grocery store, like an Asian grocery store, which makes it so much easier. And it's really nice because there's a decent number of them in the city. I remember
What's really
when I
funny,
was what
we bought a giant bag of tempura batter because we couldn't find tenkatsu at the store, even at the H Mart.
and then I found it, the tenkatsu at the H Mart.
It was 3 bags to the left of the big bag of tempura batter we bought.
Literally was right next to it. I was like, what? They must have just knew that we wanted it, and they stocked it just for us.
Now, having that said, the big bag of tempura batter is still the much better deal.
Absolutely, but frying tempura batter is a pain
The
in the butt.
tenkatsu does save you a lot of time.
It saves you a lot of time. It's
so now to put you on the spot, Dio.
Yeah.
Between the okonomiyaki, between the tempura, between the onigiri, and between the enoki rolls. Overall, for flavor and for a hearty meal, what is your favorite?
Enoki. Easy.
Enoki rolls, really?
Brainless. That is a brainless, easy choice.
Wow.
Because, listen, it tastes... So, in terms of flavor, right, it's between okonomiyaki and the enoki rolls. Those are the two best... Those are the two strongest out of flavor profile. Enoki rolls are way less time, way less effort, way easier to get to done than okonomiyaki. It's not that okonomiyaki isn't worth it. It is worth it, but it is a lot more time and effort.
It is. It 100% is. So I was actually going to say that I prefer okonomiyaki over the enoki rolls.
Ah.
Even though the effort is a lot higher.
Yeah.
I like the flavor of them a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is mostly cabbage, I can delude myself into thinking they're healthier. I don't think either of these meals are healthy.
But
I
healthy.
can delude myself. No,
it's protein and vegetables on rice. It's easy.
But
it's good for you. So it's a whole meal.
The okonomiyaki between the two is cheaper.
That's true, because the thinly sliced beef is somewhat more expensive.
Exactly. When you look at the main bulk of the meal, the cabbage that you use for okonomiyaki, if you get a big ass head of cabbage, it might cost $5.
And you can get a lot of okonomiyaki out of that.
If you look at the sliced beef, the thinly sliced beef that you could use for the enoki rolls, you're looking at like $20.
2-person amount. Yep, pretty much. Like it's a much more expensive meal.
So
but
I feel like you're trading.
Taste.
I feel like you're trading ease of preparation for
money.
Cost, and the
Which I'm fair with
okonomiyaki
doing.
is like a quarter of the cost, all things considered.
Very true. Whereas I am not economical. I just like putting tasty things in my mouth.
Valid.
And I will do anything to avoid having to do work. I'm peak lazy person. If I could buy myself out of work, I'm going to do it.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Well, it's a good thing I'm in the kitchen then.
Indeed. I don't think you would like the kind of slop we would have to eat every day if I was the one in charge of the meals in our household. Because we would be eating so much instant ramen, so much raw veggies, like just with nothing, just raw veggies, so much tuna salad.
Here's your dinner tonight. A
Canned
bowl
sardine.
of uncooked broccoli. If
And
you
canned
really want to
sardine.
get spicy, have some ranch dip on the side.
Literally. Like, I would be like, here, honey, here are some crackers and a can of tomato sardine. Also,
No,
if
I
you
don't
need
want the
something
sardines.
green, there is a cucumber in the fridge. Like, you would hate eat. Like, I eat. How did you describe it? That like my family members and I that we eat like birds or like rabbits.
I wouldn't argue like that. I would argue that your brothers barely eat. One
Yes.
of them eats like a child, since he only eats like chicken
Yes.
McNuggets.
Yes, 100%.
The other one orders enough food for 2 of me, and then eats a
1/3 of it. Yeah.
And then your dad actually just has normally good taste.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, your dad has normal eating habits.
Yes. The rest of us eat weird, myself included.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm weird about food. We eat weird. But I can't help it. I think it's better that you are the cook because it makes me look like a normal person.
For real. But you're allowed to have your opinions about it,
It's
especially
true.
something as personal and as intimate for you as
food. Indeed. Everybody
You
loves
are
food.
not allowed to have your own opinions about video games.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Everybody knows that there is correct opinions when it comes to video games.
Correct. There is.
If you don't think Zelda Ocarina of Time is the best video game ever made, I think you're required legally to log off the internet.
Gasp. I'm gonna be real with you. I've never finished a Zelda game ever.
Same.
Not one.
Same.
Okay.
It is that time of year again.
Indeed, the Game Awards are coming around.
The Game Awards are coming around. And
Voting
we are
is up.
going to learn what the correct opinions of video games are.
Indeed. The big drama, I would say, not drama. I mean, there's drama every year. Every year, people have conflicting opinions on games. I think the biggest one is that the Elden Ring DLC is up for Game of the Year.
I saw that and I was actually surprised.
A lot of people, it seems like, are frustrated that downloadable content can win Game of the Year. And from a base logical perspective, I can get it because true, it's not a new game. It's content being added to an existing game.
At the same time, wasn't Elden Ring eligible for Game of the Year last year when it came out in 2022?
Yes.
I remember seeing that and being like, but it's not from this year.
Yep.
Like, this is... I was joking about how there's correct opinions about video games, and this is one of the sort of weird things that companies do. They're like, yes, okay, Elden Ring didn't win Game of the Year last time. Let's put it in for the next year, even though nothing has changed.
Indeed, that it's the same game and we have done nothing different. Like, it's so a lot of people are like, this is rigged. This is, Elden Ring's third go at Game of the Year. And it's like, I mean, if the people like it and they want to vote for it, they're going to vote for it. I don't know. That's the whole point of the Game Awards is it's a popular vote contest.
Yep.
That's
and
it.
Quite frankly, I feel like on one hand, I feel like a DLC, an expansion to an existing game,
kind of toes the line.
on one
a
hand,
bit.
I feel like it shouldn't be in the running for that. But
It almost
I
feels like it needs its
understand.
own category. Yeah.
I understand because it is effectively a brand new game within Elden Ring.
It
adds
is, like,
so much.
It's a lot more than just like a
And
very simple
I justify
campaign.
this by saying that I honestly have no desire to go back and play Shadow of the Erd Tree, despite how much I enjoyed Elden Ring. I got my fill of that game, and I'm kind of done with it.
Like, I don't need any
So
more.
I'm just like, I'm happy. I don't need more. I'm the Victorian child who was actually full from the first serving. I'm not
You're
going
like, I'm
back up
done.
to the man and asking for more.
Yeah, you're like, I don't need any more. Now, my personal stub, Shadow of the Erd Tree aside, is that Silent Hill 2 did not get a nomination for Game of the Year. And I'm wondering if it's just the timing, like that it came out so late in the year because it came out in October. And so a lot of people have just finished playing Silent Hill 2. Or why it kind of got snubbed from that category, because a lot of people were saying, it didn't get, it can't be Game of the Year because it's a remake of an existing game.
I actually remember this now. I now actually remember why Elden Ring was in Game of the Year 2023 instead of 2022. Because it came out in November of 2022. It is exactly what you were saying. People actually couldn't get a good gauge on it. So that whole complaining for 5 minutes actually was invalid.
Is invalid. Okay, fair enough.
I have live fact checked myself and issued a live retraction. Elden Ring had every right to be nominated for Game of the Year 2023.
Okay, well maybe that means that Silent Hill 2 will be nominated for Game of the Year 2025 then. Because that's the thing. Well, and that's the thing. A lot of people were saying, but it's a remake. But, so was Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Oh, absolutely. And the remake was even in the name.
Yeah. So why can't remakes win Game of the Year?
Well, you say that. Final Fantasy VII is also nominated for Game of the Year 2024.
Yeah, it sure is.
It's the second installment of the Final Fantasy VII remake. I don't even know what the name of it is. But it is nominated.
Either. Yeah, so it's interesting. I don't know. I hope it's just a matter of people haven't had a chance to get a feel for the game because it did in fact literally just come out. And so it doesn't necessarily have that much, but it's had a lot of critical acclaim. I played it. It was genuinely a very good, very faithful remake, really good adaptation. The only problems I have with it are very much like problems that you would only have as a PC player, which I am, which is that, the PC launch is always the bottom of the priority list and it's always never optimized in the slightest.
Yeah.
I can't really, that's just, you kind of just expect that with PC games at this point.
I can still blame them for it. I can 100% blame them for it.
I blame them for it because it's like, you can figure out how to optimize this game to run on inferior hardware, and yet it runs worse on my, equivalent / superior hardware. Interesting.
Intradasting.
Very interesting. So we'll see.
I do know.
Maybe it will see Silent Hill 2 next year at the Game Awards, but this year, not this year.
Not this year. We'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see. I hope that I actually do hold all the correct opinions about the video games. That would be very validating.
That would be very nice.
If my opinions are the correct ones.
Everyone else is just wrong.
Exactly. But please tune in to next week's episode of the Otafest podcast to see if your opinions too were correct.
Indeed.
Bye-bye.
See you next time. Bye.